welcome everyone to the seventh episode of the podcast, the world's greatest podcast with the coolest name. Welcome, Michael Fisher from Rotten. This is another really interesting episode, a really strong powerhouse, up and coming brand in the candy space, better for you gummy worms. There's a lot to talk about that's pretty fun, but the whole series and the whole point of the podcast is to hear from these superhero founders and hear their founder's story, the origin story of the brand. So this is going to be an interesting one. Michael, what got you the idea in the first place to get into the gummy worm business and make this your mission?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for having me. I listened to some of the previous episodes on a run earlier this week, and they were all super interesting. I love hearing everyone's story of how they randomly ended up in this space, because it's never a straight path or one you would expect. And I think it's been a similar story for me. Didn't come from the food industry. I had actually just graduated from Stanford and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I was a Venture for America fellow, and was working at a healthcare consumer e-commerce marketplace. So selling home care items, things like adult diapers and nutrition shakes, wound care products. We didn't manufacture anything. So totally different industry, selling adult diapers online to now manufacturing and selling better for you candy. But
it's the inverse in some ways.
yeah, exactly. Our gut healthy gummy worms, they promote digestive health. But it was a great experience and learning in brand building and how important that can be. We were selling products that our customers could find and buy both in store at places like Walmart and CVS, as well as online at places like Amazon. And so we were really tasked with how can we build a brand and customer experience that will make people want to shop with us and choose to buy their products from us. And I've definitely brought that over with Rotten, where obviously we're in a massive industry. Non-chocolate alone in the candy industry in the US, just under $15 billion a year. So huge industry, but lots of competition. And so how can we, not just from a product standpoint, stand out, but also build a brand experience and universe that evokes a feeling for people and gets them to buy into it. So while I was living in Charlotte working at that startup, COVID hit. Ended up moving back home, back to California. Had some more spare time on my hands as everyone did, and started working on some startup ideas with a friend in actually the software space. All the while, was kind of tinkering with making some candy at home. And this came out of grew up obsessed with candy. Earliest days I can remember, I was sneaking onto my parents' Amazon account and bulk ordering trolley eggs. One of my favorites as a kid. But I had largely exited the market as a customer. I was trying to eat healthier, eat way less sugar, and luckily had the willpower to avoid buying it, because if I didn't have it in front of me, I wasn't going to eat it. So I had really just tried to stop buying it. And my experience with the better for you stuff was really, at first, a lot of the zero sugar products from the conventional players. So the Haribo zero sugar bears. Bad experience with that product. They are famous for their viral Amazon reviews. They're using a lot of ingredients like sugar alcohols, which end up giving people diarrhea. So not great experience there. Then discovered some of the kind of earliest low sugar products, not zero sugar, in the space, and thought, oh wow, this is a breakthrough for me in what I'd seen from a formulation perspective, but didn't love the product. And I especially didn't love that it felt like I was eating diet candy. So even though I was someone who was trying to be healthier, wanted a better candy option, I didn't want to be made to feel like I was dieting when I was eating candy. Like candy was supposed to be this splurge, this indulgence, this fun. And so I wanted it to still feel like that, even with the better option. Um, Similarly, at that time, Liquid Death was launching, and both from a aesthetic branding perspective, I loved it, but also just their whole thesis around like why is all water marketing health wellness very yoga focused. Um, and I took that same kind of question and idea into the better for you candy space, which is why does a better for you candy need to look healthy? Why can't it look like candy still? And still figure out how to communicate the health benefits even with that. Um, and so that kind of all led to Rotten, dropped the software stuff I was working on with my friend, and um, over the next few months started working on a formula with a food scientist. We ended up launching a Kickstarter pretty early on, and the thought with the Kickstarter was I talked to a lot of people in the food space. I knew that, to go out and manufacture this at a co-man, it was going to be very expensive. Minimums were high, development costs were high, and I wanted to prove out some part of what I was doing before I went and did it. And so I actually viewed Kickstarter less of a way of this is going to, fund the company for the next 6 months or year or any of that, but rather let's put our concept out there. Will people give us money for it
Yeah.
just on the concept alone? And they did. We raised 30,000 or 40,000. Unfortunately, can't remember right now. But like hundreds of people, strangers, supported this just based on our core premise, what the brand looked like, the packaging, the mock-ups. We didn't have samples for anyone to try yet.
So
So that
just
was
on the concept alone.
yeah, just on the concept alone.
So it showed you that you had demand, and it was kind of a proof that there was a market for this. And then it was just a matter of going out there and actually executing.
Yeah, exactly. The I honestly felt like the product concept, low sugar gummy candy, was already validated by other brands in the market. And so the Kickstarter then validated are people into this positioning of that product, this brand and all of that. And that combined with seeing the market validation for a low sugar gummy candy already gave me the confidence to move forward. Um, and then that left the hard part, right, which is actually executing on it. So ended up spending a long time in development and moving around manufacturers, trials, getting the product manufactured. Um, Low sugar gummy candy is actually incredibly difficult to formulate in the way that we wanted to, which was really a one-to-one match to the candy you're familiar with, and also manufacture that at scale. So we ended up launching at the end of 2023, launched primarily online. Over the next 5 6 months, got a ton of customer feedback. I think one of the biggest learnings for me is as much feedback as we got along the way from our Kickstarter backers and friends, family, whatever, nothing can replicate having a product on the market for anyone to try and people just willing to tell you what they think of it. And I also kind of figured out that our advantage in the market compared to larger competitors is we can just move a lot faster. So 6 months of being on the market, we totally revamped our packaging, made our the messaging clearer, and we totally reformulated the product, and we relaunched kind of the whole brand as Rotten 2.0 in mid-April of this year, and went to Sweets and Snacks the next month in May, and the following 4 months since then have been the craziest 4 months of my life. So was a good change in updating our packaging and reformulating. There's been incredible demand for this new product, and a lot of retailers who are really excited about the fact that our product has the better few attributes that more and more customers are looking for today, but can bring in somewhat of a more conventional shopper to that space.
Yep. Let's take a look at it. So here's the product in real life, right? So it's you definitely have a very specific aesthetic. And to me, when I look at it, I'm a kid that grew up in the 80s and 90s. It looks like Garbage Pail Kids. It looks like this retro nostalgia from maybe the early 90s. But how did you land on that design? Because it seems like it's working, right? But I mean, what was the inspiration for that?
Yeah, a big motivate like before we kind of started our branding exercise, what I had in mind was I want to build a universe of characters. I want there to be a story behind the brand. uh, I want everything to be tied together and make sense. Like, why in our brand universe are we using less sugar? Why does that make sense? And kind of have this idea of, as a brand, if we were to launch a cartoon show or a TV show in 5 or 10 years, like we have the assets built, we have the storyline, like everything's there. And I just felt like that would give us the strongest foundation to design packaging, to produce entertaining creative, which at the end of the day, the barrier to entry to produce a physical product lower and lower. And so I felt like to stand out, we needed a brand with depth,
Right.
something that stood out and something that resonated with people. And so found this artist here in LA, and we worked together for over a year designing all of this, and it all just started coming together as we were looking back at different nostalgic references like Garbage Pail Kids, Creepy Crawlers. I know you called out some of those as well, but um, all tied together, we have this fictional founder, Dr. Rotten. The mascot on the front of our packaging, his name's Frankie Freak. The concept there is we all have a freak inside of us, our own unique freak. Rotten gummy worms are the key to release your freak. And this motto for our brand, Feed Your Freak, is really like our call to embrace your eccentricities, embrace your weirdness.
And there's an inclusiveness to that, right? The undertone
Yeah,
there is like everyone is welcome too, right? So there's a
yeah,
that's which is timely. So each one of them is actually different too. I mean, that's the cool thing. So the flavors are loopy lime, messy mandarin, slobberous strawberry, weirdo watermelon, scary cherry, and barf and blue raz, right? So that's cool. Each one of those can be its own character. This reminds me of like Bazooka Joe bubblegum when I was a kid. I used to buy bubblegum because I wanted to read the little comics. So if I could go on here and actually every week download a little short of these characters interacting with each other, to your point, that's a protective moat around your business, right? Because someone else can try to copy the gummy worm itself, but they can't copy the vibe of what Rotten is, especially with all these characters going on.
yep, completely. And I'd say our focus for us right now as a brand is I do feel like we've done a good job laying the foundation to have a protective moat around our brand. And we are now looking forward with a product roadmap, and we have an exciting new product coming later this year. But the focus there is really how can we be even more innovative on the product side and build products that are very, very differentiated from what's existing on the market today, following the data of what's performing well in the market right now.
Yeah, well, that's smart. I'm excited about it. It's been fun working with you and your brand at Pod. We're excited to see it grow. I think it's really important that you're tapping into a quote unquote mainstream audience. It's not a niche. It's not inaccessible. It's the kind of thing that can improve public health in the country, really. People snacking and eating healthier than they otherwise would. So
Yep.
Where can people find your product now? And you're on the timer. We've got the antique hourglass here. So before the hourglass runs out, we've got to run through the list of all of the awesome retailers that were smart enough to carry your product so far.
Love it. So we are in Hy-Vee in the Midwest. We are available in Zoomies. We're available in DoorDash Dash Mart. We are in Safeway in Northern California, working with Pod on that, which has been amazing. And we have a lot of exciting
And
retail
a
launches
lot
coming.
more to come soon,
Yeah.
too, right? So you guys have got great momentum. It's great to see. We'll be cheering you on, and everyone around the industry should give these a try. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you, Peter.